So what happens to the mortgage in a tax lien sale? Now, my name is Ted Thomas, and I've been involved in the real estate business for over 60 years. But the last 30 years, I spent with tax liens and tax deeds. Now, why did I do that? Well, it's a nice business. It's very low risk, but it's got a high reward, and I'm going to spend a lot of time telling you about that. So I love these tax liens and tax deed certificates, and I'm going to tell you a lot about them. I have lots of good news for you in this episode. You'll learn the rules of the government mandated and controlled program. Now, this program, tax liens and tax deeds auction business, has been around for 200 years. You're going to find it's pretty clearly laid out. Now, I want you to stay tuned because as I go through this, I'll tell you at the very end of the video, I'll have a free gift for you, but I'm going to go through a step-by-step process which you'll enjoy. Now, I'll come right back. Okay, what happens to the mortgage in a tax lien sale? Now, remember I said it's actually an auction. So the good news is this business has been around for a long, long time. 200 years, the government has administered and had mandated programs that the people could go to tax auctions and tax deed auctions. So you're going to learn a lot about that. It's always done at the local county level. It definitely works, and it's always worked. Now, where did it all start? Well, it starts at the state legislature. Now, that's where they make the laws, the rules, and the process. And then they pass that down and have the counties execute all that. So we're going to kind of learn that process step by step today. Now, the mortgage that's on a property is usually the second lien on the property. The first lien on the property is always the tax lien certificate. So a mortgage could easily get wiped out. Now, if the property owner does not pay the taxes, what the county will do is they will take some action. Now, the action that they will take in a tax lien state is they will issue a tax default, and they will issue that notice to the property owner, and then they will also make a record of it in the county records that this property is now in default of taxes. Now, non-payment of taxes sets off a whole bunch of alarms at the county. And I'll tell you why it sets off those alarms. But first, understand that the county needs to collect that money because they need money. Why do they need money? Well, they've got a lot of bills to pay. So what they do is they notify the homeowner that they need to pay the taxes. Otherwise, they're going to start an auction process and they'll sell a tax lien certificate. Now, those tax lien certificates are sold on the courthouse steps. So what's going to happen to that mortgage is what we're going to learn about today. So owning a property in the United States is a privilege, and it's given to all the citizens. Now, that's the great part of it. So that means you can do anything that you want with that property. You could rent it out. You could grow crops on it. You could raise cattle. You could build your own barn. You could build a house on it. You can do a lot because you have that privilege. However, the one thing that you must do to maintain that privilege is you must pay your property tax. Okay, so you're not going to probably subdivide properties, and you're probably not going to rent them out and whatever, but you want to buy tax lien certificates. Okay, so the property owners are required to pay. If they don't pay their property tax, then the county's going to issue a tax lien certificate. Now, the tax lien is always the first lien on the property. Now, I explained the lien law in another video in this channel. So if you don't understand that lien law, well, you could learn that and learn why the tax lien is always the first lien. All right, so the tax collector, which is the treasurer, and the county, what they're going to do is they're going to put that property on a list of tax defaulted property. So that list now will be published in the newspaper. So they announce it in the newspaper and they put it on the property records. Okay, so on the property website, I should say. So the county will have a website and they'll advertise all of these properties. And I'll show you a big list of those here in just a minute. I'm going to have Lance turn on my other video camera and show you a list of all those properties just so you have an idea. But what you're concerned about today is what happens to the mortgage at a tax lien sale. Now remember, it's an auction. So I'm going to make this as simple as possible. The county records will show a property in default. The official treasurer will deliver a notice of default. Now that notice of default is part of a due process of law. Okay, they have to notify the property owner that they're issuing a tax lien certificate. All right, now that tax lien certificate will be announced in the local newspaper. It'll also be on the county website. So you're kind of getting the idea. They're going to let the world know about it. Now the property owner, if they don't pay, they're going to forfeit the property in many states. But in the tax lien states, they don't forfeit the property because a tax lien certificate is issued. All right, so why is the county even doing all this? Well, the county's doing this for a major reason. They need tax money to pay the county employees, to pay the police department, to pay the fire department. You're getting the idea. All those bills have to be paid. Courts are paid by the county. Schools are paid for by the county. All right, so if someone goes into delinquency, what they're going to do, in half the states they sell a tax deed, but today we're talking about tax liens. So the tax lien is issued. Now, if nobody pays the tax lien certificate, the county treasurer is going to put the property in a delinquent situation. So they send notices. That's called due process. Now the next thing they're going to do is they're going to issue a tax lien certificate. When they do that, they're going to put it on a list. Okay, the list will be published in the newspaper. That's called the announcement. And they'll also announce it on the county website. So now the world knows about that. Now the tax lien certificate is always the first lien. So what happens to the mortgage at a tax lien sale? Well, when the people pay their taxes and they recover, what they're going to do is they're going to give their tax lien back to the county. They're going to pay the county the money. So you're happy. Now they get their property back. It still has a mortgage. However, if those people never pay the tax, they never pay it, then the county is going to award the property to the person that paid the tax certificate. So any entity or person that pays the tax certificate is going to get that property, and the county is going to knock the mortgage off. They're going to wipe it out. They're going to take it off the official records of the county. So the owner now has lost the property, okay? Now, when it's in a tax lien situation, the owner still owns the property. The owner still stays on the property. So if you buy a tax lien certificate, it's a super safe certificate. What does that mean? Well, it's going to be predictable. It's going to be certain. It's going to be secure. Ultimately, if the taxes aren't paid, the tax lien certificate holder will get that particular property. And when they get it without a mortgage. And when that mortgage was there, it was now wiped out by the county. You don't have to do any of that. All you have to do is raise your hand up in the air, buy the tax lien certificate, and then just wait. It's a passive investment. Okay, so what we're looking at here is this is a newspaper from Jacksonville, and it's quite big. So let me show you how many pages it's got here. You get the idea. So this is kind of a big newspaper with a lot of pages. Let me see if I can actually find a page number on here. And without my glasses on, I probably can't see it anyway, but let me look. Yeah, this newspaper is going to have well over 200 pages. 200 and, I'm going all the way to the back now, 244 pages. All right, and what we're looking at here is this is a tax lien list. So I'm just going to open it and show you what's there. Now, you kind of have to study that just a little bit. But that's all the properties. There's 28,394 tax lien certificates just in Duval County, which is Jacksonville, Florida. All right, so I'm going to finish this video now, and I'm going to finish it by doing two questions. Who can buy a tax lien certificate? Well, just about anybody can buy a tax lien certificate, anybody that's got the money. So you don't need a lot of money to buy them. Sometimes tax lien certificates will sell for $500. I mean, they're not a lot of money. Now, keep in mind, if you could put $500 in, you're not putting much in. So if you make 10 or 15%, you're not making much money. But there's plenty of them, as you can see from what I just demonstrated. Will I be evicting someone from their house when they buy a tax lien certificate? Well, one of the things about tax lien certificates that I should mention is the counties that sell those tax lien certificates, they're really benevolent. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that when they sell a tax lien, the people stay in the property. They stay on the property. They don't get evicted. And so the tax lien buyer gets a certificate, just a piece of paper, and the certificate just holds, it's a passive investment. So if you're the buyer, you just hold that passive investment. Now the hope is, if you bought a tax lien certificate, that sometime in the next year or 2 years, however how long the certificate would be, that the people are going to come in and pay. So when they come in and pay, you get back all your money plus the high interest rate. Now if you don't get paid, well, that's what our lesson was about today. If you don't get paid, well, then what the county's going to do is they're going to wipe out the mortgage and you're going to take over the property. Okay, so below me now is a free gift, so you want to go get your free gift. And there's also 2 lessons to learn about what mistakes that you want to avoid. All right, so I'm finishing up now, and here's what I want to make sure. I always promise people I'll tell you about 2 mistakes people make at the auction. First mistake they make at the auction is this: they don't look at the property. So if you haven't had eyes and boots on the ground and you haven't seen that property, or you don't have somebody you know looking at that property, I'm going to tell you not to buy it. What if it burned down? What if there was a hurricane? What if there was a fire? What if there was a windstorm? I mean, any kind of crisis could happen to that property. And then you'll be buying that burned out Hulk. You really don't want to do that. The other big mistake people make is they get to the auction and they get too excited. And they get excited and they get into that bidding stuff and they start bidding, and they're bidding to win. You don't need a bid to win. Anybody can bid high and win. You bid so you get to your objective of getting a property cheap. All right, now you don't want to bid on a property until you know what you can sell it for. All right, now that's called an exit strategy. If you don't have an exit strategy, don't bid on the property. All right, well, thanks for watching. Below me is a free gift for all of you that stayed with me. I hope you learned a lot today. I'll be back on the next video.